Welcome to the Realty Hack Podcast, where we talk about damn good tips for leveling up your top performing real estate team or brokerage. Today's topic is about selling luxury real estate in Austin with special guest Wade Giles.
How are you doing today, Wade?
Great. Busy morning. It's Monday,
Yeah.
and I can't believe we're only a few days outside of the holiday, and it's like April.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, you know, it's funny is I want to tell, well, I'll let you tell the very first time that we ever met you was like, was it, I was doing an open house, and when was that?
That was January 1st, 2014.
Right, because you had just got your license, correct?
Yeah. Yes. And you were my very first showing ever.
Wow.
Very first time I ever brought clients to go look at a house. It was New Year's Day. I remember because all my friends were drinking and I couldn't because I had showings that afternoon. And you had a listing in Barton Hills, and I was so nervous. I was just so nervous. You know, the clients pulled up right after me and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. You're like, don't worry about it. I'll walk them through the house. I was like, thank God. And you took care of it.
Yeah.
So.
And then I remember seeing you, I think I saw you out, we were at a bar one night, and this was probably like a year or two later. Is that right?
Probably, yeah.
It was something you were telling me about what you were doing. And it was something to the fact that was like, because you were so new and I looked up your production and I was like, holy shit. Like, I mean, you're probably one of the best success stories that I've known in real estate, in the sense of getting to really like top luxury super fast. So I want to get into that. Before that, tell us what you did before you got in real estate.
Yeah. So I have a background. I went to LSU, go Tigers.
I didn't know that. I'm from Louisiana.
Yeah. No, I know. We've talked about this before.
I forgot it. Yeah.
Maybe too late at the bars.
Yeah, well, probably.
But yeah, I graduated with a finance degree, actually with a concentration in real estate. I kind of left college thinking that I might become an appraiser, believe it or not. And then anyway, when I graduated, I backpacked through Southeast Asia, lived in Australia for about a year, came back, and that was in 2009, and no one was hiring a finance major. So I got a job doing outside sales for a fabric protection company. So we'd basically go in and Scotch guard, your furnishings for like luxury residential. And then I said, well, gosh, if I can do this to houses, there's a new hotel. There was a new, St. Regis being built. I was living in Atlanta when I came back. I was living in Atlanta at the time. They had a new St. Regis being built. So I actually got the contract to treat all of the whole hotel, which was great. And so I did that for a while. Then that company went under. And then I went to go work on the corporate side for a clothing brand called Vineyard Vines. They got the little whale logo. And so I worked on their corporate side for a couple of years. But real estate was something I always wanted to go into. I was living in New Jersey at the time, from Texas originally, but was living in New Jersey at the time, and talked to my now husband at the time. And I said, look, I want to go into real estate. And he's like, you hate the people here and you hate the architecture, and we travel a lot. And I was like, okay, fine. So fast forward a couple more years, and moved to Austin. And within about 3 or 4 months, I was like, okay, this is the time. This is the time for me to go into real estate. And so I just told him, I said, look, I'm not asking your permission. I'm telling you, I'm going into this business. Give me 6 months. And if after 6 months it's not working out, I'll go do something else. And which is, in hindsight, 6 months is no time to get into real estate, at all. I had no idea what I was putting myself up against. But fortunately for me, I was able to get a couple sales under my belt in the first couple of months of being in the business, and it's kind of been history ever since.
So, okay. And I think that one of the interesting things about that is that not only are you new to real estate, but you're new to Austin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your family's in the car business. Did you ever sell cars?
No, thank God.
Okay. Yeah. Well, agents, I found that agents that have come from the car business tend to do really well.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I just never did. But I will tell you, I think the job that prepared me the most for real estate was being a server. All through college,
Yeah,
I waited tables and bartended. And you just learn how to read people really, really quickly.
Yeah.
If a table wants to talk to you, or if they want you to leave them alone, or how they're gonna. You can pick up a lot of like nonverbal cues really quickly,
Yeah.
and I think that's been super valuable.
Yeah. And I think you learn how to deal with high levels of stress doing that as well.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so what was your, when you chose a brokerage, and you're
Mhm.
still the same brokerage, right?
I am.
It's Moreland,
That's correct.
right? So how did you end up choosing that brokerage?
Well, we were when we moved down here, we started working with a Moreland agent,
Hmm.
Cord Shiflett, and so we had been looking for a house. We decided to put our house hunt on hold. Once we moved down here, we moved into an apartment downtown for the first year while we kind of continued to look. And during that time is whenever I decided to get my license. So we were at lunch with Cord one day, and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm actually, I want to go into real estate myself." And he's like, "Don't do it. It'll eat up all your weekends. You'll hate it." I'm like, "Well, I'm still going to do it anyway." And he's like, "Well, look, I can't get you in at Moreland at all. We don't take new agents, but I can help you with some, make some contacts with some other brokerages. Pass my test." And I started interviewing, and it wasn't until a couple of weeks later, Cord said, "I spoke with Emily Moreland, and she's actually open to hiring someone who's new, without experience. And I told her about you, and she'd like to meet with you." And so I was like the first new hire, you know, in a long time with them.
Yeah.
Been there ever
So,
since.
so how did you ramp up so quickly?
It's a good question. I think I'm just an extrovert first and
Yeah.
foremost. I've never met a stranger, and was fortunate enough to make friends with some really great circles when we first moved here,
Hmm.
and they've continued to be really good friends to this day. And just through their network, and little by little, I started selling homes one after another, and just really trying to provide exceptional service. And
Yeah.
through it, it's been basically referrals. I've never bought a Zillow lead, or any online lead other than promoting social media. I've never cold called. I've never door knocked. I've never done any of the things that I think a lot of people do traditionally to get their
Yeah.
start.
So I meet with my agents very regularly. In fact, right now, we're doing individual meetings for business planning and agent development. And the biggest piece of advice I give my agents is to add people and live in your CRM. Do you live in your CRM?
I'm embarrassed to say that it hasn't been until the past 6 months where I actually got organized. It was an Excel spreadsheet for the longest time. I think one of the things that happened, I was fortunate that my business grew so quickly, but when you're growing at such a rapid rate, some of the fundamentals were just never really implemented.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to go back to the basics and really put in systems
Yeah.
today to make my life more efficient and give me some time back.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, because when I got into the business, I had a partner that was a California broker that was sending, investors by the, I mean, just tons of them. Like, I mean, right when I got into the business, we were selling duplexes and fourplexes. I remember my first year of real estate. Now, he had a huge company in California, but I remember looking at a board, a whiteboard, and we had 35 investment properties under contract at one time,
Wow.
and just flying by the seat of my pants. And what's interesting is, like, really everything that I've learned in real estate. I've been in real estate for 16 years, but having to relearn everything in the past, like 7, 8 years, especially when building a team.
Right.
So, uh, what advice would you give an agent that is just starting out?
To focus on what you're good at and try to outsource the rest. But do what you're good at. I'm not good at back end contract to close stuff. I hate that stuff. I'm not a
Yeah.
details person. I'm a big picture person. I want to go out there and show property and meet with people, give back to the community. That's where I excel. That's where I shine. But sitting here in the back doing paperwork, now granted, I had to do it in the beginning on my own, like everyone else
Sure.
does. I mean, I couldn't afford a transaction coordinator, but as soon as I was able to, I did do that, and it freed me up to do what I enjoy doing and what I do best.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing, but also just to really try to come up with systems you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but implement those systems early on. I think in the long run, when you're running around like crazy, it's just going to be so much more beneficial.
Yeah.
Also, I go through these pretty often, but a journal where I have to write things down, and I just take notes. And then that way, days later, I can go back through and see if I'm missing anything on my to-do list or a refresh from a call or so on and so forth. That's been really helpful for me. Some people use their phone with notes. I find it helpful to just have a journal. Before I got journals, I would have pieces of paper everywhere. And then guess what happens? Someone throws it away and I've lost someone's phone number or whatnot. So having one place to go has been helpful.
That's so great because I have the exact same journal. I love
Do you
it.
really?
It's fantastic. It's my favorite.
That's awesome. Yeah, I go through them all the time. They're great.
Well, we use Follow Up Boss as our CRM, and we implemented an upgrade on there that records every call. And so I switched my phone number on my email and my signature to that number. So if I'm calling I mean, right now my leads are technically real estate agents, right? But everyone in our system has that. But if like if I'm talking to an agent that I talked to months ago that wants to revisit maybe coming over, I actually listen to the call before and just kind of refresh, right?
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
I should start doing that.
Yeah, it's been, because they think I have like this incredible memory because I'm like, oh, how was your trip to Mexico? Like, that was 6 months ago. How do you remember that? So a question I get from our agents a lot that maybe you would know is, how would you recommend someone breaking into a higher price point than when they're at now?
Yeah, great question. And it seems like there's so many, that comes up a lot. The first thing I'll say, and what they teach you in real estate school, is like, start out with your $200,000 and $300,000 buyers, and in 7 years they're going to buy 500, and then well, you're going to wait 20 years before they buy $1 million property, and by that point they're probably downsizing and thinking about retirement. So I've never thought that to be really sound advice, but I think it comes down to, one, you've got to be comfortable with high net worth individuals. If they sense that you're nervous or unsure about yourself because of their wealth, they're going to feel uncomfortable. So one, you can't let them intimidate you because of the wealth that they've accumulated, and two, you need to understand high finishes and quality product and construction. I mean, that's you need to know who the players are in town. You need to know about materials like slabs and different fixtures, and being able to speak to those elements that you wouldn't see outside of the luxury space. And that takes some learning. I mean, I spend a lot of time reading Arch Digest and other Dwell and so on and so forth. I get a lot of value learning about the latest and greatest appliances and window packages and so on and so forth. So that's important too. And then it's got to come organically. If someone feels as though you're like salivating over the fact that they're about to spend $2 million on a property, I think that can make them nervous as well.
But also, I mean, I think you touched on this earlier, is like, finding the right network, right? Of friends. Because I tell you, one of the biggest boosts in my career was when I moved to Barton Hills. Because, I remember my wife, we lived in Travis country, and our note was $1,200. This is 11 years ago, $1,200 a month. And our note was going to go up to like $2,600. And for us at the time, it was like, oh my God, that was so much money. And it like that changed, because so I would tell people, one of the things you can do is buy a more expensive house and then have a bunch of kids. I only have one, but
it's true.
Yeah, you tell people that don't have kids, you're like, no, I'm not going to do that.
It's a great way to meet people, though.
But isn't that something that you've done too? Is getting into networking and surrounding yourself with higher net people?
Yes, but it's never been. I've never viewed it as a conscious way to make more money, and I think that's probably why people have entrusted me to sell, their homes. I've never That's never been my goal. It's just been to meet people. And then I just so happen to meet other people and so on and so forth. But, I know a lot of agents that are targeting certain, net worth individuals because they want something out of it. I've just that's never been my viewpoint.
No. And I will say this, I mean, we've been in, committees together, and you are probably, well, you're not probably, you're the most down to earth luxury real estate agent that I know. And what I mean by that is that, like, sometimes you get, not with all of them, but a lot of them, you get this air about it, and I feel like you could sell I could be talking to you about a $250,000 house or a $3 million house, and it's just going to be the same, the way you conduct yourself. So I've always been really impressed. I have one more question for you. What advice would you give someone who is looking for a new brokerage, or someone that is just getting into real estate and trying to find their home?
Yeah, company culture, I think, is huge, and having people that are willing to mentor you. And for me, when I got to Moreland, they're all seasoned agents. They're all really, really busy. I learned very quickly that there wasn't really it's not a Keller Williams training program that's super in depth. And so a lot of it was like, fly by the seat of your pants. But I had a group of several agents that I could call. I'd call one with one question, another with another question.
Yeah.
And shortly thereafter realized that there was one guy in particular, Clay McLaughlin, who is one of my best friends to this day, spoke at my wedding, and I talk to him daily. But he's been my mentor, and I call him with crazy situations that come up on a regular basis. And so just having a group of support that you can pick up the phone, you don't feel dumb for asking a stupid question. And, that's been really, really helpful.
Yeah, cool. Good advice.
And the other thing I would say, touching on your previous thing, and thank you again, that was very nice what you had to say about being down to earth. But when I first got in the business, I thought in order for me to represent my clients best, that I needed to be super combative in a transaction, because that was me proving my worth. What I realized shortly thereafter, that was just me and my insecurity. And not knowing how to handle a situation. So I was going with this aggressive attitude. And as soon as I learned that and changed my tune and was like, hey, other agent, we're in this together to get this thing closed and make both of our clients happy, it changed everything for me. I think having good relationships with other agents is so critical. It's helped me win multiple offers. It makes transactions go better. It's just such an integral part that I think a lot of people don't focus on.
Big time. And that's been one of it's collaborative negotiations, right? And networking with other agents. And I've literally had many times agents that have talked to another listing agent and some of my agents. And, they said that I think that, the fact that I'm with you has helped because I'm just a nice guy, So that's a huge piece of advice. Kelly, we have Kelly here as the non-real estate agent person, so sometimes she'll have some questions. Do you have anything you wanted to ask?
You guys really covered everything. The only real question that I have is to pick Wade's brain a little bit. At what point did you realize that what you're doing is something that's like formidable, bigger than you even? Because I know when I was doing a little bit of research about you for the podcast, I saw that you are in the Elite 25 Austin Luxury League. That's an accomplishment in of itself. Like, at what point did you realize that you made it, for lack of better word?
Good question.
That was a goal when I first got in the business. I was like, I want to be in that Elite 25. I would see the ads in the magazines and stuff, and I was like, that's a goal. And fortunately for me, I was able to get there. I think in my third or fourth year of being in the business, and that was a huge milestone for me. But yeah, it was pretty quick, and have been ever since, and very fortunate and feel very thankful that I'm in that group. But that's and while that's wonderful, what I think has been more important is helping people just make their dreams come true. When you're helping a client buy or sell a home, you're at like a chapter in their book. This is a new chapter. It's either closing one or opening up another, or both. And you're seeing them in a very vulnerable time. So to be someone to help guide them through that process and help them achieve their goals, I think is the most beneficial thing. This year, I think my biggest win so far this year was getting my clients into a lease. Their house was under contract. They really had nowhere else to go. No, but it was getting them into a lease. When I called, there were multiple offers on this lease. When I called them to tell them that we got them the property, I mean, they both just cried on the phone. And I just knew how important that was to them. So, it's not about the money. It's about making people's dreams come true.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad you did this with us, because you've had such a run up in such a short period. Not that it's been short now, but like, but like your success, I mean, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And I love it when people are just really good people win, because the worst thing is when you have bad people that are successful. It just drives me crazy. So what about where can people find you? I know one of our agents is a Instagram girl, and she did a presentation without prompting. She's like, check out this guy Wade. So what are your handles?
Yeah, Wade ATX is my Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. My website's wadeatx.com. It's pretty much everything. You can find me there. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Wade. Well, yeah, thanks for being on our little program here.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Bye.